All set now. Okay. Okay. There is this video which I would like to share with you. I don't know if you've seen some of our videos are actually on the YouTube, and I have to send you a link. First of all, this is the link for the account. So let's start with sharing my account with you. Okay, allowed. Here's my chat. Okay, everyone, if you can just copy and paste it somewhere in your browser, just so you know that it's working and it's taking you to the recorded lectures. But these are very selective, but they pertain to what we are discussing. So it might be useful for you to refer to these based on whatever we get covered. Like we have the advanced operators like in title, all in title, which is this video right here. Then we have in text, we have in URL. So at least three of these you can actually go through later after we get finished with the lecture. So it will be sort of like a revision, and there could be some added tips and few things which I might miss. So that will cover it. Um, so the first three that I'm pointing to you, first one, second one, and the third one, these might come in really handy. Yeah. Now to now today I would okay, it's all working seems. Today I'd like to start with the operator called in-text, which is a deeper search query operator. So to see what information it's pulling from those pages to match with your search queries, it is basically looking at okay, a deeper search. And I think this was the last slide. This is marked as the last one I showed you. So we're going to try some queries using in-text and see how that works. Okay. In-text, in title. Let's just take this example right here. And go to my favorite website, it's AOFIRS. In fact, I think this, so I will do aofirs.org. And it's coming up a bit slow because I'm using VPN so that I don't want the Turkish content to appear. That's why it's slightly slower. But anyway, this is our page. And let's take any example to look for this exact page, which we will try to get to using in text. And then we'll try in title as well and see what the difference is, where in title would work best or where the in text would work better than in title. So anywhere we can go to, let's say, certification. This is the page I'd like to get to. And assuming that it's already been indexed by the search engine, which it should have because the site has been around for over 10 years. So, and the content, I know that it exists somewhere in the Google search. So in order for me to find something which is um, not typically part of the title statement, I would give you an example. This is like, we're just creating an example. It's not rehearsed at all. So let's suppose this sounds like a statement or a small excerpt from this para of this page certification. And I feel that I know of these words and I know that whatever I'm looking for contains these words together as they're set in a short sentence or partial sentence. So I'm going to create the query on the notepad. Let's say this is what I need. AOFIRE offer the most in-demand career. Okay. So for me to look for something like this, which I'm assuming is not part of the title anywhere, well, let's try in title to see, because there could be some pages that might have this as a sentence or as it is set exactly in a search phrase format. So let me just put it within quotes, and also let me zoom in as well. Yeah, this should be good. Now, simply, I'm going to find this statement in the title part and just inserting this query. Let me go to incognito. There, no results. That's what I thought. Because from what I recall, I don't think this statement or part of it is in the title tags of our pages. So you will get null results or nil results. Nothing is showing up. Right? On the other hand, if I want to get to this page, and let's suppose I change this operator from in title to in text, I feel that, like I said, if it is indexed somewhere by Google, uh, this should bring up the page only because I've used in texting. Spelling correct. All good to go. Let me try it. See this? It showed up in the result page, and when I clicked on it, if I go to the page, it is highlighted and it is shown as a full sentence because I could only get a part of the part of it searched. So using this and as the matching term, I am only able to get this page because I used in text and not in title. But there could be instances where I might want to use a combination of in title and in text just to um, ensure that there is enough context and enough relationship established between the words placed with the in title along with in text to steer it onto that exact page. So if I had to write a query using both, I would probably write my query somewhat like as in two. I would write, this is obviously in text, and then I could even do in title and use words like professional research certification, for example, because I know that this could be something that is used frequently used in title statements of those pages. So let me try it and see if it's going to work. I cannot guarantee it, but I can try it. And then later we will see what's in the title tag to match and see if professional research certification is actually grabbed from the title tag. So copying this and just pasting it here. Yes. So I got in the title statement professional research certification. It's not exactly how it is set, but if we look at the title statement, we should be able to see why it is so. There is little difference here. The stemming function just kicked in, even though we did put it within quotes. So you can see that the search has used the semantics of stemming. Okay, if I click on this page and check exactly, I'm on the same page. So it did find professional research certification, and it did find the other part. Now, what I want you to see is that when you get the results returned, you see the long statement that says professional online research certification, and here we have written professional research certification. So if you don't get the exact phrase, don't think that it doesn't exist, or if it is not mentioned in the description or somewhere that it does not exist. Okay. Um, the reason I'm saying that is that let's suppose it took us to this page where, of course, it does say professional research certification. So it had the ability to look for whatever is in the title tag, which would have been pulled and be set as part of the title inside of this on the snippet as it is shown, which is not matching exactly. But when you click on the page and go to that page, surely you will find those exact wordings in the same exact sequence as you have put in the in title colon. So this part is showing up, but these three words are not exactly appearing in the title area. Okay. So what I'm saying is, and it just identifies with the fact that the search engine is reading the tags or the information inside the tag, or it is just reading the HTML portion, and it is not reading what you get to see as a user. Keep that in mind. Now, if I want to dig deeper, go onto this page and look for this statement where in title is encapsulated in the title tag. I would just go right click and let me search for it to see exactly where it's being set in the title. So I'll go to view page source and look at the title tag, title. This is where the information was pulled initially. This is the one of the meta title tags. And if I go next, and next. Because there is a meta title tag and there is a non-meta title tag also, which is which contains that information in the H2 or H1 non-meta area. It's a long one. Let me just, how do I go back? Let me go back to where it was found initially in the meta portion. So when you see that the meta title tag contains these wordings and these are pulled and shown here in the title tag area, the rest of the information or anything that says professional research certification would exist on the page itself, which can be found if you dig deeper and look for more title tags, you will find exactly same wordings. So there is this connection that I'm just trying to explain to you, and we have learned this all along. Um, but let's come back to where we were querying using in title with in text. So here, in title and in text together will bring about a better association of context, and there is a definite connection. Now, on the other hand, if let's say if in the in title you place something which was incorrect or likely not stated as a phrase or spelled as you can see inside of the quotation mark, it might not work with in text or what you have put with in text. So the condition is that both statements or both search terms should be accurate or correct for them to work in one single search query, because they interoperate, they support each other, and um, um, they are only productive when they are correct. So in text and in title statements that you put in has to be correct. If one of them fails, then the query fails totally. And sometimes if you feel that using two operators or two different ones like in text and in title are causing problem, then do your search with separating each one as an independent query. Like do in title separately or do in text separately, so that you can find out where the problem is. Okay. Now, in text has some examples, and I'd see if those examples are relevant. Yeah. One of the things about the use of in-text is actually explained really well in the video that I will share with you just now. Um, this one. So after we get done today, I think we'll be able to finish up in URL as well. I'm going to give you the link directly so that it's more convenient. Let me give it to you. Okay, where is chat window? So after we get done with our lecture today, this video you've got to watch, and the other one also. is going to be useful, which is for in URL. Okay, so this video. The pop-up, there it is. The next, any questions on in text? If not, we're going to get to in URL. We've got to move slightly faster than usual. Did you have any questions on? I mean, there is another um, version of in text where you use the word all. So if you need to make a differentiation or make a selection of using all in text versus in text, the basics would be the same, meaning that all would be inclusive of anything that you put or declare as a property value after the colon sign. All those wordings would be found, or that's what it means with all in text. Similar to what we learned about all in title. So the word all, whenever it's added, would function the same. So I don't know if I have to explain that again. Probably not. That's my assumption, unless um, you know you want me to do that. But there is a slide. There are a bunch of slides here that explains it. Um, there's differentiation between all in text and in text. In text and all in text. As an example, just quickly, because it's something I don't want to leave out. So if you're doing in text and this is your query in text internet research specialist, what you will get, and this is something that you have to be able to notice, that whenever you run in text, we are talking about the description area which brings that information, or matching content that is in the body of text is what is being pulled, or is the reference to when you look at the statement under the title area of the snippet. So this is the description part, and that's where you would see how the index has brought back relevant results for you or not, and those wordings are highlighted as well. When we did in text, you could see with the choice of 3 words. Instead, the search engine found research specialist and dropped internet. By the way, there would be a question in the exam where they would say, okay, so why did the search, or if the search using something as a word or a search phrase coming right after the colon sign is ignored? Because the rule is that anything that hugs the colon sign will never be ignored. And you got to stick to that thought, because that's how it is supposed to function. Meaning that if you don't see the word internet in the description area, it doesn't mean that it won't be found on that exact page when you navigate to it. It's just that the real state here in the description area may not just pull it and present it for whatever reason, but it's not like it is disappeared totally from that page. So keep in mind that anything that is coming after the colon sign will never be ignored. So if you had actually clicked on this and went to the page itself, you will discover the word internet being there. And it doesn't have anything to do with the title part or the link part. We are specifically focused on whatever is part of the body of text that will contain the word internet there. So, in text means that find any of these three where internet is important or is mandatory. But in this example, I don't find this example to be as useful, because I would have imagined that it would drop either the word research or specialist, where internet would remain intact. So anyway, when we look at, when still going with this example, let's suppose if we had changed in text to all in text as shown right here, you would find that all three words are available and they are found only because all the word all is attached to it. So where anything that is without uh, AL in it is used, it is discretionary for the search to find any of the words except for the one that is attached to the colon sign. And this example I showed you, like in the description area, you could see there all different kinds of descriptions. This word description pertains to anything that explains in detail in gray color what appears under the statement or the title part. So even if you are looking at what is in blue color, for example, where I'm pointing to, it's called books snippet, for instance, anything that is in blue color, um, which is in the larger fonts, is coming from the title portion. Anything in blue color that is in smaller fonts is part of the description or pulled information from the non-meta tags or non or tags that are working inside of the body of text. What is these are some of the examples. Okay, these are just for practicing. So just showing you different ways in which you could use in text. Okay. Now coming to in URL and see how that is useful. This is more important, I think, than anything else because you need a better understanding and the usefulness of a URL. Just to give you an idea of what URL is supposed to do, URL is actually an address that links the exact page that you need to get to when you click on your snippet. Um, the URL is also useful in finding out or interpreting where it's going to take you or where that page is going to take you. For example, the DNA of, of the URL, or what we call the stem of URL, contains different sets of information, and they are segmented or distributed in a certain manner as if they're following a rule of how the URLs are supposed to be built. And this is the responsibility of a programmer or systems people to ensure that it is following the guidelines, not only the conventions which are for programming in HTML language, for example, but an added requirement which comes from the search engine people. Vendors like Google, for instance, have a criteria or a way of how it would expect those pages to be linked using URLs by following a convention of writing URLs in a certain manner. Now, this mannerism of how it is supposed to work for Google in order for the pages to get listed um, changes and it keeps changing. And it has evolved during the past 5 years, where now it seems that it has stabilized. Because originally, when these pages are built for the website, the programmers follow the programming convention, which means anything that the programs would accept as a detail of how the URLs should be structured. Previously, you must have seen URLs, especially just looking at the snippets parts, you could have seen the URLs having weird kind of alphanumerics and notations. Was a combination of all those notations, and sometimes you cannot even interpret what it means. And it had a kind of an encrypted language as well. So those were very long URLs, but sufficient and satisfactory for programming purposes. And then Google or even Bing and other search engines, because they work very close with each other, they want to, find an interoperable conventions and rules. So all of them decided, look, this is getting confusing for them to be able to interpret it in wordy sense. The wordings weren't there, there was confusion. So they all decided now that those complex URLs still exist, yet they came up with a methodology where they would ask the programmers to mask the original URL with another way of writing it so that it is in words and with more clarity. It would explain to the user, even for the search engine, to interpret it in language sense, recognizing it as a word in a English language, for instance. So that was something that eventually ended up masking the original URL. So a lot of times when you look at the snippet where words are set very nicely, explaining where the page or how the page is being directed, um, it becomes easier to recognize. I'll show you the example. First of all, I've given you, just the overview. Now let's just look at the examples. For us to understand the stem of a URL, just look at this. Protocol is what starts everything, which means, and you can see that HTTPS is followed by a colon sign. you know so colon sign has a significance, even the same way as it has for the operators or advanced operators. So the colon sign says there's an action required. Two backslashes means it's going to default to a domain name which needs to be written, or that's the reason for it. At times, the domain name is replaced by the IP address. So when that happens, I mean, a lot of hackers use IP addresses instead of domain name. Okay, just so that they can play with the domain names to penetrate. That's to penetrate into the secure um, um, nodes, to be able to hack the site. Anyway, so let's suppose, I don't know why I get carried away, explaining more than I'm supposed to. Anyway, ABC company is the domain, and after the domain name comes a backslash. Now, a single backslash means that the domain itself is a big folder, assuming, and the word products, which is coming after the first backslash, is the subfolder into the domain name. uh, let's just imagine as if we have our own way of organizing the folders. This is exactly how we have, we try to explain it. So if the word product is used after the first backslash, it means that in the domain, the folder or the file named products is to be introduced, or directing the pages of Internet Research Techniques Executive Recruiters, which is the title of the page itself. The page is contained or is set inside of a folder called products. So at the very end or the last leg of the backslash, you will look at the title of the page, and where you would find the title to have dashes in between. Don't worry about it. These dashes are totally ignored and are considered as separators or gaps, similar to the gaps you put in to separate each word in a sentence. So this is just a placeholder or just a assumed gap separating each word. Yet, if you spell it all together, all of these five words are supposed to be the title of the page. Or you could say, if the page needs to be reached somewhere on the internet, it would lead to a source or the main source, which may be a page in HTML or a PDF or any other format recognized, with the HTML convention of using HTTPS order. So Internet Research Techniques Executive Recruiters is one long title, and that's where the page is going to lead you to. And this is the simplest way of explaining it. And when you are talking about something called the path means the way in which folders are set. So if there was a folder other than the folder products, or there is a subfolder that is within the folder called products, you would end up getting this page or finding this page in that subfolder. So I don't know if I can, I'll have to write it otherwise. Let me see if I can do that quickly. Let's suppose it is HTTPS A of IRS.org, and there was a folder called membership, and within membership, there is pricing. Within pricing, there is associate membership. What you will find in this URL is that, I mean, you don't have to write www anymore. It's by default is assumed to be there. So aofirs.org backslash is my main folder is membership. And within membership, there is another folder called pricing. And within the pricing folder, you see a document that is called title. And this is the last leg or the last part of the URL. And more than that, you would also find an extension, which is another indication that this is the title, which extension like the type of page. If it is HTML, it would say HTML or HTM. If it is a PDF page, it would say PDF extension. So this is how typically it is written. Our idea of using in URL is to match some of the words or any of the words that become part of the stem or structure of the URL. So if I want to look for something in URL that says, I would simply write it like this. But I don't think that this should be sufficient for us to get to this URL. So what do we do? I think we have to give some more information. I mean, associate membership is a very common word, and it could take us to any of the URLs that offer memberships. So we have to be even more precise. So what I could do is I can also write in URL A of IRS as a word. Okay. I can even write in URL afirs.org. Now, what happens with using a in URL is that whatever is declared property value, in this case, as I've highlighted, this portion will be treated as text or anything that is considered to be part of the URL, including the backslashes. All that is here after HTTPS is going to be something that can be queried for the URL to be found through the in URL operator. So I can write in URL associate membership, and for it to go exactly to my domain, I could use aofirs.org. I can even write it like this. I can even write it like this. Even this would work. Okay. So you're getting a sense of, how we can query the URL. Everything that is making part of the stem of URL is considered to be words and notations. Anything that is even, first of all, there won't be any symbols. So if there is backslashes, they are considered to be part of the link. which is indicating in this case that the main page of a domain and the folder that we need to get to would be the word membership uh, written as it is. It cannot, it would not give you a margin of error that you can leave, a gap here. Or let's say instead of membership, you put the word pricing before membership. That will not work either. So it has to be precisely and exactly matching the real, it's very finicky about the particulars that you put in the in URL search. Okay, so be mindful about that. I would like to take a break now. I think I forgot. So can we take a 10 minutes now, and I'll see you shortly. Just be assured that whatever lecture I'm giving right now, luckily we have a video that explains somewhat exact things that I'm explaining. So that would be really nice. I have those videos. I'll see you in a little bit.
All right, sounds good. Thank
See you
you.
soon.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm back. I hope you can hear me and you can see my screen as well.
Yep, all good.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to show you now where the URLs are queried with in URL using HTML as an example. Okay, so in this illustration, you can see that this is actually the snippet. And snippet has at the top this URL you're looking at. It's the most simplest one, taking you to the home page. And the home page URL is pulled from the meta portion or the top portion or whatever is running behind the header part of the content page that contains something called href. Href means that it is the main URL, or it is about the page, and it may not have an extension which is talking about the sub navigations from the home page onwards, but it is the main navigation. So it is pulling it from href. But at the same time, I would also bring your attention to what we learned about how the indexing system pulls URLs and organizes it, which is what I don't know if it's the same slide. There was another slide. I believe this is the one. Indexing process. I'll just briefly show you. See, like here, it has actually pulled all the URLs from all different pages at the time of indexing. It organizes URLs that could be in the footer portion, href at the top, and everything else in the body of text, even sub navigations for rest of the pages. So all of these URLs are pulled, as you can see, and these are organized and correlated with the wordings that are basically the titles of the page. I will see if I can show it to you like this. Okay, so you can see it's like if you follow the arrow, this one, for instance, is about heirs or association, and this is the title statement. So it is also correlating it with the title of the page or anything that gets added along with the base URLs, which is, let's say, taking this example, board directors. So if board directors is the page or the folder in which a page called board members is placed, it is going to look for the wordings as title statement and correlate that with the URL. So it does different kinds of algorithmic processes to make sense out of where the URLs can be defined with the title of the page itself. That's just a refresher from what we learned, but let me get back to where I was before. Okay. Here is one scenario which will give you an idea of how the original URLs look like. And what are something called dynamic URLs. We can query both of these URLs using in URL, but to know what are the two different types of URLs, I'm giving you an example that's set on this page. At the top, you could see that you've looked at this example before. This is a typical URL for a page that is a static page, a page which is only about information and there is no dynamic code on those pages that processes something, like it is not taking you to a specific document that is hidden behind the um, you could say that's in the database system and which are protected files. They may not be visible or they may not appear if you are to query the static codes or the static URLs. If you compare this with the URL that's shown here, this is more detailed and it has information that is leading to a page which is behind the indexing system of a search engine, meaning that these are not the kind of links which would which can look for wordings and match them exactly. Um, so these will remain hidden even if you do in URL. So to give you an idea, let's suppose this is the domain name. This port number, they don't use it anymore, but let's suppose after the first backslash, it says listening module, and there is a question mark, which means that it is a query, which also means that anything that is after the query, which is shown in the highlighted portions right here, this remains hidden, or these are encrypted or protected from being accessed, and therefore they are not indexed. After the question mark, DOCID is the document name, is equal to, see, these numbers, or they could be even alphanumeric characters that are sort of encrypted, because the if you decrypt it, you will get the wordings behind or wordings of the name of the document or something to do with the document that would otherwise will remain open if it was just the words. So these are encrypted in numbers. And then there is this green part, which is um, actually a more in-depth second layer of database protecting what is um, in the in the blue colored highlighted portion. So this is also a URL, okay? But what is suggested by Google or the system that runs the search engine, it would ask the programmers to mask this, but make it uh, in a format that you saw in the snippet portion where there are these words, and those are the ones that would interpret or translate anything that is up to where it says listening module and a question mark. Whatever goes after or comes after the question mark is totally out of indexing system. So these are the two types of links that you might end up dealing with. However, since we are focused on this one, which is what you would observe in actual um, searched in snippets, I want to give you a comparison to see what used to be and what is available now, or how the Google wants it now. Before it, these were like very long URLs. Okay. These were the ones, and you could see a lot of dotted lines here. This means that it is very long and it cannot fit into the snippet. And this is what used to be. So what Google did is that they told the programmers and made it a convention that they should be translated in easy readable wordings. So the one that is on the left, a long one, got upgraded to the sort of way in which it is set on the snippets. You can see the word Google followed by the arrow pointing to the word about pointing to the word company, and so on. So what the arrow is telling you is that the site is from Google domain, and this arrow is replacing a backslash followed by the word about, which is the page called about. After that, another one which can be assumed to be a backslash again, and the word company is a subdirectory or a subfolder to about, and the word history is used to denote the further subfolder named history that is inside of the subfolder company. So that's how the hierarchy of the URL is set. And when we are querying with in URL, luckily it is not only just looking at these words, it is also trying to query what is running behind these uh, uh, this set of convention, which means the original URL, which is a longer one, will still exist, or wherever it exists, is bound to be masked by what it gets translated into. And when you do in URL query, it is not only going to look at these words, but the words inside of the original URL, which is the real URL. Okay. So just keep that in mind. And this is schema, we call it schema of writing the URL, is what we call breadcrumbs style. Okay. If you want to learn about, if any of the domains that you're getting to is does originally belongs to the same domain name, or if it is a phishing kind of a website, or if it is not supposed to be something that is coming from the original vendor or the owner of the site, you have to look at how some of the subdomains are set. The difference between main domain and subdomain is that a main domain, for instance, Yahoo, here you could see the main domain is called yahoo.com. This is where everybody goes to. And sometimes the company or the vendor wants to break that domain into subdomains so that the process would remain intact and connected to the main domain, and the ownership of the website is remains to be uncorrupted, or it is not diluted. The convention of how the owner of a main domain would set subdomains. By the way, the difference is what I was explaining. I'm sorry. Sometimes the website becomes too big, or it is very difficult to organize the information in that many pages. So there are some, limitations inherently, different levels, software level, operating system level, everything starts to become more complicated, and therefore it needs to be more efficient. And for that reason, they would split the main domain into subdomains, and those pages which would actually get attached to the main domain would now be set for it to function along with the subdomains. So let's suppose if it was yahoo.com, the subdomain for the mail is mail.yahoo.com. Similarly, if you go to the news section, you will see it says news.yahoo.com. So the way in which subdomains are set is a rule that should not be broken, meaning that anything that is divided into a subdomain should start with the naming convention of how you would want that subdomain to be named. If it is to be mail.com or it has to do with emailing, it would be mail.yahoo.com and not like yahoo.mail.com. Similarly, if it was yahoo.news.com or yahoo.com.news, it is incorrect, and you can read it at the top and know if it is coming from the original owner of the domain, or it is rigged, or it is somewhat something intentionally set to cause confusion. If you go to, well, I don't know. I've seen a lot of examples in PayPal. They come as paypal.com, .net, something else. But those are all incorrect, or not the real domains, or not the property of the original domain holder. So that's why this convention needs to be understood as something which would start with the naming of the domain name, followed by a dot and the name of the main domain. So you can see this is how you can tell if it is from a good domain or if it is somebody who is scamming you. Okay. Another thing about domains that might be useful for you to identify if it is coming from the original source or not, you can read and these are the two examples. We'll just look at these two and that should be enough. You can tell by looking at the structure of the URL if it is coming from the original owner of that, sort of information page. In this case, it is PowerPoint, and it is coming from slideshare.net. It is not coming from the main domain of someone who's the owner of that. In other words, you could say that slideshare.net is another platform where the page called Conducting Online Research is coming from. Um, or, I'm sorry, it's is actually staged or hosted on a third party platform. In the second one, it is coming from the original ownership of those slides. So you can tell by reading through the domain and reading through the URLs to find that out. Um, it's more reliable if it's coming from the main domain versus a third party staged or third party subscribed mm, hosting site. So this is just to say, some of the information that you can get from just reading the domains to understand um, the validity of it, or the source of it. Yeah. So these were another set of slides where we are not talking about in URL. We're just trying to understand what the URLs are like and what could be different types of URL. One of the things we will be doing in running the in URL is that we will also look at some of the ways that you can directly go to a type of website. You can do it in different ways. Like .gov is from the government, .mil from the military. So you know where the source of that information is coming from, or those pages that you're going to get to, where it is actually what is the source of it. So if it's .org, it's organization, getting somewhat an idea of what these mean when you have these extensions or domain name completed with the extensions like .info, .biz, .mil. These could be queried using in URL to get to these sources directly. Second advantage is that if you want to, let's say, get to a website that is in Australia, you can use .au. I say dot is because you can actually use the dot along with the words to direct the in URL query to these sources or to these countries. Um, Bangladesh, India, Thailand. So you could do .th, .c. It is these abbreviations are well known and are pretty much conventions in directing you or when you want to um, make sure that the link or the URL is restricted to that particular country. You can use these abbreviations. If the source is for BBC, for example, if you do bbc.com with in URL operator, it would most likely get information from BBC that is a generally international version. If it is bbc.co.uk and you use it with in URL, the source of info or the search terms that you're using would direct you to those pages that are coming from UK only. So these are some of the things that we will play with a little in the in URL searches. And there is a, a larger list. These are examples, but if you look them up in the book, there is a huge list of these different abbreviations. Okay. Again, in URL, all in URL. So I don't want to bother with that. The all thing is what we are talking about. This one is important. Now, the main use of in URL is really another thing. Okay. Let me just open up the book here. I want to look at and share these examples with you. Remember, I mentioned to you there used to be a lot many advanced operators that would drill down into finding the information coming from a certain source, like blogs, like articles, like news, like forums, those were queried using advanced operators like in-blog, news, column, and so on and so forth. There was long time ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Now those have disappeared, so we don't have the way to go directly to those sources. But if you can interpret and look at how the URLs are set, you would find words like news, like articles, like blogs, and all of those become part of the URL as a convention, as something that leads you or takes you directly to that particular source. And therefore, the in URL would do the trick and bypass, in fact, just not worry about what was specifically mentioned in advanced URLs, in advanced operators before. So no need for blogs, no need for writing news, nothing that you can put um, or you can ignore uh, because you don't have the previous operators. Why, as an example, I take this, copy this, and I am going to put them here to run an example. That's the easiest way to explain it. So supposing this was the link I needed to get to. This is the link I need, or this is where I feel that I need to go and find a page. and look for something in YouTube that says YouTube dominates Google video results in 2020. It's an old example. We can run new ones later, but let's suppose, assuming that this works all right. First of all, let me just check because I want to show you how we can get to this URL, but only if it works. So just to test it out, I'm going to go back to my browser and see if it is still operational or not. That's what I thought. Okay. So never mind this one. Let's just construct a new one. Or maybe I have it somewhere here. Okay. Never mind. Let's just construct one. Going to get rid of this and see blog and write common words. So if I do an URL moz.com and I do in URL wordings like Google, let's see what it's going to do. What I'm telling the search is to go to moz.com. In URL, I want it to have the wordings like Google search, which I think is common enough that I would find it. But at the same time, I want the source to be coming from the blogs, not the news section, not anywhere else. Let's say I know Moz has blogs. So in the URL, there would be a word blog or blogs. So if I want to put blog, and I know it's finicky about singular and plurals also, this is the drawback of in URL. So what I might end up doing is I will put another URL here and say blogs, because I'm not sure. So if I want to run it, I would expect that with the words Google search, it should be able to find it somewhere in the blog section. Okay, Moz. Okay. So what the search revealed, you could see here. It says at the top that the information or something that is coming as a title statement, which says a beginner's guide to Google Search Console. Google search is there. The thing wanted with the in URL is that this information should be coming from a source of a blog. Okay, this could have been a news source also, but I want to be specific. I want this to come from the blog area. So if I click on the snippet and go to the page, what I'll find at the top is the word, let me just copy it. So what I found by running this is this link or this page. Okay. So what was the importance of using in URL? Because in URL has in the stem of it, it would identify the source or the type of information or the style of writing. So if it is a blog, it would have that name in the URL. because that's where blog is a section and it is directing your search to a source which is coming from blogs and not from anything else. And notice that it has a word blog here and not blogs. Okay. If I had used instead of and knowing that certain words are, or if you know of exact words or how they are spelled, keeping in mind about singular or plural, I would be mindful to first of all check the common URLs to see the sections, to see how it is written, if it is written as a singular or plural. And if I'm not sure, I would do singular or plural the way I've written it in B.1. Let me try using instead of blog. If I use blogs with an S, what's going to happen? So if I take this, no, if I take the same link, I'm sorry, same query, bit sleepy today, and instead of blog, I used the word blogs. Let's see what's going to happen. Nothing comes up. So it is very finicky. Whenever you are querying something within URL, make sure that it is spelled correctly. It's not going to do stemming and lemmatization within URL. Another thing, okay, I have this example here. And let's suppose if I run a query that you are looking at now in B2, it's using in URL colon sign UK because that's what we need to be matched, assuming that the link we need to get to will be exclusively coming from United Kingdom and nowhere else. So if I put in URL the site, I want it to be okay. So let me not use site, not to make it complicated. I'm just going to use in URL, say LinkedIn, and I say in URL or without making it in text, I'm saying that it would look for the words. And I've intentionally written in text here instead of in URL because what I'm asking the search is to find the word UK and LinkedIn in the URL, but on the page that it's going to get for me, there should be some information about executives and email. So that's why I've used index. For sure, it is going to look for something, some sort of executives. We use this query for, data scraping, lead collections, and things of that sort. So let's try this one for now and see what happens. And let's not even do this. Make it simpler. All my results are coming from LinkedIn. and it is coming from UK. You see this? Isn't this great? I mean, but you have to, when you have a good understanding of how advanced operators can work alongside each other, could be different, but the language it speaks and the language you understand, and so will the search engine, is how you can optimize or make it more effective when you're setting the queries. Um, I mean, in what I see right now is that I'm getting information from LinkedIn, and the word executive is there, is executive director. It could be executive anything, chief executive, you know. So I'm able to get to that because I queried UK. I put UK in there. That's abbreviation that I told you. That it's a whole list of it that you can, and makes it easier that you can go directly to that location or that area, that country, using in URL. You can also go to forums. Let's try one for the forums. A lot of times we want to query the forums, or we want to see what the social media murmur is like, what is happening with what is trending, what people are discussing in the forum. So, and the best way is to use in URL operator with the word forum in it, because that's what you get when you go to forum sites, or anywhere that you click on takes you to a forum, or where the thread of the chat is happening, and it is captured during the indexing system. It's more than likely that you will get to that exact location, or that exact sort of source of information directly if you use in URL. You can even do it using it as a word, but it's not as precise, and it is not as controlled. So let's suppose I create a query. What is that? Microsoft site. If I write, let's write it on a paper first. I would like to do B dot T, and I say in URL, I want the word forum. I want in URL Microsoft, and I want to talk about, I want that page to talk about Windows 11. Um, but that's it, just to make it simple. So I'm at the forum right now, as you can see. And by the way, these three dots that you're looking at right now, this is an added piece of information that Google has introduced, which becomes now part of the snippet. And the reason I'm going to open this and show you is because, first of all, it is going to give you the entire URL, because you can see that it is not completely showing, okay? Or it is too long, perhaps. But the fact that these three dots are there would lead you to the link without having to click on them, because the pop-up will open up and show you the entire link. That's number one. Number two, what used to be an operator called source with a colon sign, it used to reveal a lot more information on the, I guess, whichever query you're doing with the wordings, to take you to a more detailed source of info of where it's coming from. So that operator is still operational, but somewhat the three dots reveal information that is is revealing about enough, or 50% of what used to come with source column. So at a glance, you can see it in the pop-up. If I want to open it up, clicking on the three dots, I can see the entire URL. I can see it has in the URL the word Microsoft. It has the word forum in it. Okay. So it is one of the directories that is typically directing or informing the user that it is coming from a source called forum. But the word forum can also be part of the title. So there could be this confusion. I'm not saying that's guaranteed coming from forum as a source itself, but it could be a word forum used in some title of the page itself, where it's taking you to. In this case, the page is actually this right here at the very last leg of it, the very last backslash. So I don't know why it has got all these characters. Anyway, the objective here is to show you the entire URL shows up, or the original URL shows up. But as you can see that there is not enough space, or a real estate is so precious for the snippet to only show, about enough that it would not guarantee the entire thing to be visible. So the original URL, in other words, may be concealed or it may be masked by the words. But when you click on the three dots, it shows you the original URL, or the one which is also queried all the same as would the breadcrumbs format of it. Now, you can see there's a lot of information about, the site or the page. Somehow it is not in my language, it is in Turkish language. I'm sorry, I should have changed it. But anyway, what source used to reveal about where the information is. Let me see if I can translate this first of all. Okay, it got translated. Um, your search and this results. But bits and pieces of information. But if I query uh, with the source colon and the title, which we haven't done yet, but I'll show you this in the next class. It is a glimpse of a partial portion of what would come out when you use source colon. Okay. So right now we're just discussing in URL. Now I'm going to talk about the dates, or the parameters of length of time during which you want those pages to be the ones that comes when you search using operators called before colon and after colon. So coming back to our slides, let me just show you. Here it is. These are called date range operators, or what used to be an operator called date range with the colon sign is retired, is no longer there. So don't make that mistake, because when you are finding the operators, online for information of, on how they are used, you can still find people writing, or they're recycling information months after months, years after years, where without any regards to or knowledge on what got retired. So I found a lot of times they're using date range as examples, which don't work, because date range used to be an operator. We don't have to talk about it because it's retired anyways. Used to be the operator that would have replaced after and before with a colon sign. The colon sign. So what happens with before and after is that, as the wordings, with the wordings, you can tell that you can put a date or a format of a date after the colon sign to give it a restrictor that whatever results are brought to you should be coming before a certain date, or a certain year, um, or certain timeline. For instance, the timeline would be This one, the third one where I'm pointing to, it says after this date and before this date. So this is, a kind of a date range. But if you want a restrictor just to stick to before a certain date or after a certain date, you can use it as is shown. But let me make it clearer because it is so far a bit of a confusion in how it is written or how dates are written. So I'm going to make it easy. Let me start with the example. Let's just take this. So this is the example. And this is about a game called Avengers Endgame. And somebody is trying to find the version which is in between a date range after 2019. This is the month and this is the day. So the convention usually goes Y, and then you got MM and you got day. That's how it's recommended by Google. That's the format you should always be using according to Google. But guess what? It works in so many different ways. Like the way in which you have written it here, or what Google suggests, is one format. There would be other formats that work just the same. I'm going to show the variations of how you need to be mindful on what is it that you can be doing with the dates. You can be writing them as just some variations I'm writing as much as I remember. And there are others which are actually in the video, which I will also give you a link for. Video that explains different versions of ways in which you can write the date. So let's suppose there is version C.1, there is version C.2. You can write it also. And this is not in the book. For some reason, I probably missed it. I didn't write it in as much detail. Or you can use both operators in the same query. So C1 through C3, this is standard. But here is the here is the main variations. Sometimes you don't remember the day or the year. I'm sorry, year you remember usually, but the day and the month you don't quite remember. So what happens? Are you not going to be able to use this uh, in your search? Not really. You can actually be more creative and it would still work. Like for instance, I would use it like this. This is correct to do. I can even do this is correct. This is correct. This is correct. But the exception, what the system will not accept is the one I'm just putting in front of you now. What it will not accept is when you are missing the year. Okay, it's incorrect. So the year is the most important part of the dating, the way you're going to write the dates. And if you don't put the year, then we have a problem. Because even if you're missing the month and the day, it would still accept it. Because no, the year is what it is going to default to or look for as the basis for it to execute that range. Or even if it's separately done after or before, the year has to be there. You cannot just put the month and the day. This is incorrect. Now, one more thing, I don't want to have to write the, well, probably not a big problem. Another way that you can write the dates is that you can use the backslash. So the format of the dates that is acceptable can also be 8, 9, 10. Acceptable format can be these backslashes. It would know that it is a date range or a date. This is acceptable. This is all acceptable, is all okay. All right. So this part should be clear. Now let's run a few examples for the date range and see how it works. So let's create another search query. I say in URL, I want something to do with artificial intelligence, and in URL say news. Okay. In URL, I want a date. No, I would say after 22 March 1st. and before 2023, May 5th. Now I want to run this query. BCD. Dates are correct. Huh? Now, we want to look at the dates just to see if it worked for us or not. After March 2022, but before May 2023. Oh man, this is again in Turkish. I'm just going to take away this query from this browser and I'll run it in the browser that has the US version or VPN running. So I'm going to try it here. Okay. So I got the date April 16, 2023, which means it's still April, the fourth month. Okay. And if you want to read it again, it should be uh, May 5th. Anything before May 5th, but after March 1st. Just remember that. It's 2023, July 22nd, 2022. Okay. So it's working because July is the seventh month. And we said anything after March 1st, 2022. And you just keep looking at the dates. Tell me if any of the dates are incorrect. So you can see that the query is working just fine and the operators before and after are doing their job. Going to go back to the query tables. I have like tons of queries which are all examples what you can use. Um, it's just that I wished I had done site operator also. That would give me a lot of examples. Okay. But in any case, it's a lot of information to to absorb. Um, so for now, we'll just leave it at this based on what we have learned so far. And I would like you to look at the all those videos if you get a chance. And because it's a weekend and hopefully you will have maybe half an hour to maybe 40 minutes at the tops. And you can run at least four of those videos that ideally would be covering everything we've done so far on the advanced operators and with examples, including the dates part. So there is a fourth video also, which is, all there. You can see it and you can run it and quickly see it just so that you can get a revision. And then we'll meet on Monday. Or do we have a class on Monday? I know there is a holiday on the 4th. So let's just check it one more time. to see what we have on the schedule. I know there was a little bit of variation because of the holiday. So we completed our 8th class today. There's no class on Monday. That's what I thought. So no class on Monday because it's 4th of September. It's a Labor Day, I'm told. Then we've got Tuesday and Wednesday back to back. So we've got 2 classes, one after another. So I hope to see you on the 5th, and it's a long weekend. I hope you have a good time and look forward to meeting you on Tuesday then next week. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. I would be happy to answer anything specific.
Sounds good. We'll see you on
All
Tuesday.
right. See you.
Okay.
Have a
Have a
great
good
weekend. Bye bye.
Yeah, take care,
Thanks,
everyone. Have a
Wahid.
good weekend.
Okay, bye.
Everyone, bye bye.